Well, look who it is. Dang old YouTubers again. I have lamented the sad state of YouTube live streaming every day that I have live streamed in the last, I don't know, 2 months. They have changed their format on a mobile device. It can only be vertical. And I think that's just stupid. But here we are. What's up, Fluster Cluck Farms? Good evening. Shop Stuff is here. What's up, Derek? Don't thank me. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Alex Giles. Shalom, homeboy. Now, listen. If you're new here, super simple rules for live streams and convo. The first is you will treat everybody here with respect. The people above you and below you in the chat, that is your brother and sister. You will treat them as such, or we will blue band hammer of death your ass, and you will never be heard from again at this channel. Okay? Okay, Bear. The next is ask your questions in all capitals, please and thank you. Alright? Because that way there's a much higher likelihood that I will actually see them. If I see them and I want to answer your questions, I will. If I see them and I don't want to answer them, I won't. If I don't see them, I can't answer them. And in some cases, because in the last 6 years we have produced more than 5,000 pieces of content at this channel, I might say go watch this video instead of rehashing that video. Okay? Okay, Bear. Alright, good talk. Everybody, hit me. That's right, Glock 316. Don't get your pee-pee schwacked. What's up, Shannon? Refuge Medical Training online. Asking for a friend in Southwest Florida. Dude, maybe. Here's the thing. Online anything is not training, it's instruction. Or I'm sorry, it's informational, not instructional. Taylor, bless you. Which kit carries the Sawyer Mini? The Origin Western IFAC. It looks like Tiger Strike camo. RefugeMedical.com. If you're on Patreon, use your Patreon promo code. You'll get a percentage off. Online training. Here's the thing. Training, in order to be effective training, must have pressure and accountability. If you are online, the challenge becomes applying that pressure and accountability. If you just need to know how to use your stuff, you need the information, go watch the trauma medicine playlist here on this channel. It's free. It's an 8-part mini series that I did on trauma medicine. Like basically, I go through a trauma first aid kit and show you what does what and why you need it and how to apply it, and you know, indications, contraindications for different methodologies of trauma medicine. Order Scout, thank you. Let's see. How many people do I need to get signed onto a training class scheduled in Ohio? Kevin, sales at refugetraining.com. We're going to have that conversation with you. What is your stance on tattoos now? You make no cuts upon your body or marks upon your body for the dead. So the question is, how do you dice up that phrase? It's in Leviticus 19. You make no marks upon your body, comma, nor cuts upon your body for the dead. So if you're saying, well, I'm not getting a tattoo to memorialize a dead person, it's okay. I have lots of tattoos. Actually, that's a lie. I have 2 tattoos. They're just both massive. Okay, they're now just basically a sleeve and a half sleeve. Gosh dang, Chef Angry. One more time, and I'm gonna punch you right in the mouth hole. All right, 14 times already. I've seen it. I'm answering other questions. Stand by. I have a sleeve and a half sleeve. If I was of the opinion currently that more tattoos would be good to go, I'd have more tattoos. But I am not currently of the conviction and understanding that tattoos are allowable, because the entire purpose of Leviticus 19, it begins with Leviticus 19 verse 2, be set apart as I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am set apart. And everything in Leviticus 19 is about being set apart. How are you separate from the nations? And the nations did a lot of heathen shit that the Father didn't really appreciate, and so therefore he's like, hey man, don't make marks upon your body for the dead. YouTube crashed. That's cool. On this rectangle, not that rectangle. So there we are. Do you have a minimum distance between highways and homestead? Yeah, preferably as far away as possible. It's called lines of drift. I've done a dozen different videos on lines of drift, and it's a concept that you can easily research on the interwebs. Yeah, you want to stay away from lines of drift. A minimum distance? I'd say if you're within 20 minutes driving distance or more from a highway, you're probably good. But then there's also like major rural routes that people miss as well. I think that, thank you, Johnny Midas. I think that YouTube is glitching because Chef Angry's comment is just sticky at the bottom of my screen currently. How does one with no credit come out of her, my people? Please and thank you. Dude, I did it with 0 credit. Absolutely 0 credit. I murdered my debt and reduced all costs of living down to the absolute bare minimum, and then stacked my dollar bills up, and I did as solar flares, EMPs, the Chinese. What's up, Kyle? 0 by 0. Appreciate that. I think I'm back now. Shalom, brother. When is the ox coming back in stock? We were waiting for more of the blow molded cases to come in now. You just reminded me of something though, so stand by. I gotta make a note for myself. Got it. So, can you all hear me now? 5x5 now. Thank you. Tracking like a tank. Good copy and much love from California. Hi, Ghost. Sorry. YouTube crashed on both rectangles at the same time, so I don't remember what the hell I was talking about. Luckily, there's a whole bunch of you here, 358. 449 of you people here, so I'm sure we'll get another question. Is cutting a small braid of hair to put in a casket a bad thing? Why? Traditions of man? I can't think of a good reason to do that. I don't know if it's sin, but why? Whatever's inside of that casket is dead. Like, all the way dead. Like, it's not coming back. Dead. So, what makes the meat sleeping bag of a human special is the soul, which is what's fearfully and wonderfully created in the image of Yah. I have no reverence for corpses, including the corpses of people that I love. Now, like for example, right now there's a ship in the South China Sea that's dredging up American World War II ships of war that have sunk there, and there are the interred corpses of U.S. sailors there. I think you should have respect for those people who are interred there. Don't disturb the dead, and that's that particular act is disrespectful of those sailors who died upon those ships. But I ascribe no real world value from a sentimental standpoint to a corpse. It is the meat sleeping bag that held the eternal soul that is property of Yah. Like, Yah makes Adam from dirt. Dirt, on the one hand, is incredibly important. Life doesn't work without dirt. On the other hand, it's dirt. Like, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, right? Like, why do people decompose? Because we were made out of dirt to begin with. The special thing is the soul. And so the remembrance of that body that's inside of the casket, you know, I talked earlier about my dad on the brief this morning. When my dad died, it's like, look, you know, a box full of dead flesh. That's weird. We should probably put that shit in the ground for biological reasons, because that shit's a biohazard. Not because of the reverence for this meat suit that held this beautiful, wonderful, 100% unique facet of the ever-existing, ever-loving, self-evident Father of creation. The soul is what's special. Why do you need to put a lock of hair inside of a casket? That sounds like some traditions of man bullshit to me, being perfectly honest. When buying land, is no restrictions good, a go or no go? Yeah, Ben, it can absolutely be a go, but just understand in most places where you buy land that has no restrictions, it also very rarely has any infrastructure. And so you'll find a lot of cheap no restrictions land, but it's cheap because nobody's put any elbow grease into it whatsoever. So expect to spend more to develop that land than you would in certain places where there are certain restrictions. And by the way, the concept of no restrictions seems like a very libertarian, liberty-minded thing that we could all be into, right? Like, yeah, no restrictions until you build a homestead right here and 500 yards away they put in 14 chicken houses. I kind of would have liked it for there have been a restriction on that, right? And granted, I don't have chicken houses near me, but there's a piece of land that I just recently looked at that in the deed was a 20-year restriction on poultry houses, chicken houses being built on property. I actually think that that's a good thing because there's a lot of disease that comes from those birds, and there's a lot of smell that comes from those birds, and I really don't want them to be anywhere near my house, let alone an eighth, a quarter of a mile away. What's up, Spectre? Boo-ba-doo-ba-doo. Black Hat Bushcraft, blessing to you and your family, brother. I truly appreciate all the information and knowledge you share. Patreon is absolutely worth every penny each month, and I'm really enjoying my new SOB IFAC. Bless you, Black Hat. Thank you. Miss Lovely Dudley. Hey, what's up, Sister Vicky? Shalom. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Bear Independent, do you believe you can lose salvation if truly saved? Absolutely. Are you once saved, always saved, and can't leave God's family once even if you wanted? No, that's... The concept of once saved, always saved is Christian bullshit. Do you have one of these? Turn with me, if you would, to Hebrews chapter 10, where I will read to you what it says about this. Hebrews chapter 10, beginning in verse 26. For if we sin purposefully, what is sin? Anybody here ever heard of the Apostle John? Okay, John, Yochanan, John, famous for New Testament greatest hits such as the Gospel of John, and 1 John, and 2 John, and 3 John, and let's not forget the book of Revelation. That guy. John said in 1 John 3 verse 4, sin is lawlessness, and all who do sin do lawlessness. For if we sin, if we are lawless, purposefully, after we have received the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a slaughter offerings for sin. By the way, this is in the book of Hebrews chapter 10, written by the hand of Shaul of Tarsus, the Apostle Paul, who was a Pharisee that apparently Christendom loves to just nitpick all of his little dribs and drabs of words and put together their own pet doctrines and dogmas. For if we sin purposefully after we have received the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a slaughter offering for sins, but some fearsome anticipation of judgment and a fierce fire which is about to consume the opponents. A little Isaiah 26 action right there. Anyone who has disregarded the Torah of Moses dies without compassion, from the mouth of Paul in the New Testament. Anyone who has disregarded the Torah of Moses dies without compassion on the witness of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much? Oh, well, that's for the Jews. Anyone who has disregarded the Torah of Moshe dies without compassion on the witness of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much worse punishment do you think shall he deserve who has trampled the Son of Elohim underfoot, counted the blood of the covenant by which he was set apart as common, and insulted the spirit of favor? For we know him, Yahuwah, who has said, vengeance is mine, I shall repay, says Yahuwah. And again, Yahuwah shall judge his people. It is fearsome to fall into the hands of the living Elohim. No, there is no once saved, always saved. That is modern Christian bullshit. What there is your walk with Messiah back to the Father. That's what there is. That's it. Now, can you repent and come back to the Father? Absolutely. What is your seasoning for chicken thighs, active family? That's a great question. Because I don't know if you have a camera in my house or what, but for dinner, praise the Most High, I had a ribeye cooked in ribeye fat in a cast iron skillet with salt and pepper. Just salt and pepper, fat. Super high, 2.5 minutes per side, let it rest for 5 minutes, cut it. And then, as the fat was still in the cast iron skillet, I took 2 thighs, 2 back ends of a rooster, whom I shot in the face yesterday. And the same one that I almost shot on the brief last Friday. I shot him yesterday, and I ate his breasts yesterday, and I ate his thighs and legs this evening. And I used kosher salt, black pepper, and a little bit of onion powder, and just slapped him in the pan, 5 minutes aside, let it rest for 5 minutes, cut the meat off the bone. It was absolutely delicious. And while he was cooking, I took some boneless, skinless thighs and put them in a large Tupperware receptacle with some, what do you call it stuff, Italian dressing, and I will grill those over an open fire tomorrow and eat those for dinner. So, yeah, there's amazing things happening to my YouTube on my other rectangle right here. Rapture Theory, Striker Cade. Yeah, Rapture Theory is, no, I'm not a Seventh-day Adventist. I'm not denominational, y'all. I read the Bible and I do what it says. Period. The end. And if I can feel it out there. But Bear, what do you think about insert Bible verse here? I have read every single word of the New Testament on camera. I've read every word of the Old Testament from Genesis chapter 1 now through Ezekiel 3 on camera, as well as every single weekly Torah portion on camera. So you have a large body of work to work from to ascertain what Bear believes. And in a nutshell, it is, what does the Bible say? That's what I believe. All of it, first page to the last page. No 54,000 different denominations, none of that bullshit, man-made doctrines and dogmas, none of that. No religion, personal relationship with the Creator by the blood of His Son. Period, the end. That's right, Palmetto, the Bible plus nothing. Exactly. What's up, Brian Barnes? What is Discord? Oh, I guess you don't know, right? Have you ever had a biblical dream? At least once a week. You know, here's the thing. I think a lot of people think I'm just like postulating with this preparedness shit. I've been doing this for 18 years. I've only been talking about it on camera for 5. I didn't open my mouth once about preparedness on camera until I had been doing it for a minimum of 13 years. Anybody with 4 or more brain cells cobbled together can see the writing on the wall. From a worldly aspect, And I would submit anybody who has even the smallest dose of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, can feel it in your soul that there is change in the air, that something is coming. And I absolutely intend to weather this storm, whatever that storm may be, however it may manifest. Am I perfect at preparedness? Absolutely not. But I'm doing the best that I absolutely know how to do. I'm not kidding at preparedness. I'm not joking at preparedness. This isn't a hobby for me, it's a lifestyle. I left Dallas, Texas and moved here because this is a more survivable place. I've spent an hour today feeding livestock guardian dogs, sheep, cattle, turkeys, and chickens, and a guinea pig, because the toddler's got to have a guinea pig. Because those things, minus the guinea pig, increase my survivability rate. Period, the end. And now you've got all this meat in the grocery stores shot full of mRNA vaccines and, bovine growth hormone and all this other bullshit. I don't have that problem. Again, the steak that I ate this evening didn't have that problem. The chicken that I ate didn't have that problem. I went into this last lambing season with 26 sheep. Ate a bunch, gave away a bunch, and I ended the lambing season with 26 sheep. I just went into, 5 days ago, another lambing season. Now I have 31 sheep. I don't even want that many sheep, right? But I have that many sheep. If I want to process another 50 to 80 pounds of meat right now, I can. I can walk over to the field on the other side of those pine trees, shoot a sheep in the face, pull a knife out, and put meat in the freezer. There's a lot going around right now. Sean Ryan had the dude that wrote the Grid Down, or did the Grid Down documentary. I was listening to a bit of it earlier. It's one of those things where, not surprised at all. Not even a little bit surprised. But I think most people, including most people on this live stream right now, are going to be 100% caught with their pants down when the grid goes away. Not if, but when the grid goes away. This is not a hobby for me. I'm not joking at this. This is the way that I choose to live. And, frankly, I derive a lot of joy from living this way. Man, there's a lot of comments going on. What do we got here? 494 people. Do you slaughter your sheep? Yeah, all the time, Gene. I've done a half a dozen videos on how to process sheep on Patreon. Are you growing anything new to your gardens this year? No, that's a good question, Scott. I'm not. In too many years prior, we've attempted to grow new things. And frankly, they've been things that we don't really eat and things that we're not very familiar with. So we have some really basic staples in the ground right now. We have asparagus. It's too late for the salad greens. They've all gone to bolt. But we've got broccoli coming up and cauliflower coming up and Brussels sprouts coming up. We just harvested our first run of potatoes. Might be able to get another run in, but it was 90 degrees here today, so we're going to see, heat-wise, how the potatoes will do. Zucchini, peppers, tomatoes, beans, your basics. Because when we get into the more esoteric garden varieties, they don't do that well, and we don't do that good of a job at stewarding them. And honestly, on the regular, I eat every day. I eat meat, some type of legumes, beans, and maybe some cruciferous vegetable or something green, maybe every day. And as far as sustaining life, this one mosquito needs to die. I rebuke you, mosquito, get out of here. As far as sustaining life, Inuits eat seals. That's it, right? And they're not up there taking their one a day men's multivitamin, So there's a lot a lot of hay that is made out of micronutrients versus macronutrients. Like, maybe tell that to the people who live above the Arctic Circle in Russia who eat horses. That's all they eat is horses. Now, are horses food? No, not according to Leviticus 11. But they're still alive. So rather than having 3 dozen, 5 dozen varieties in the garden that we can't tend, we have about a dozen varieties that we can tend growing currently. What's up, Badger? Yeah, Striker Kate, I've got that going on as well. The chat's stuck at the bottom of the screen. We just baptized my 2 elderly neighbors 2 weeks ago. Praise Yah. That's awesome. Bear, do you believe in biblical cosmology? Get him, Canuck. What's up, Whip? My gosh, YouTube. Fix yourself. Best steak I ever had was a horse. I would respectfully disagree, Mr. B. America. You have a safe zone, Doc. What do you mean by that? Like, you want my opinion on where to bug out to or where to strategically relocate to? Joel Skousen, strategic relocation. Do what he said. Me and my doggo are hanging in there from Finger Lakes, New York. I know the Finger Lakes region incredibly well in New York. Incredibly well. What else we got? Hey Bear, do you eat your lamb with fava beans? Negative. I'm more of a butterbean kind of guy. Lima beans? Meant for Doc Bear. Alright. What was the deciding factor for picking the area you live in now? Population density, mature trees, change in elevation, and water. Low population density, lots of mature trees, moderate change in elevation, and lots of water. I have lots of water here. And it was enough land at the right price with enough housing on it. So, you know, and there's this concept as Americans, everybody wants their 40 acres and a mule, but I would submit most of y'all who are living in the city or the suburbs have no idea how big 40 acres is. Like, the fact of the matter is, you can be more or less self-sufficient on 3 to 5 acres if you work it even with moderate intensity. 40 acres is nice. 400 acres is really nice, but most of that's going to be untouched land, undeveloped land. Woods, maybe native pastures, but you need less land than you think that you do. And back when I was doing a lot of consulting, I would get people all the time who would be calling me from Chicago or New York or Jacksonville or wherever saying, yeah, I think I want to buy, like, I don't know, 50, maybe 100 acres. I'm like, 50, maybe 100 acres. Do you know how big an acre is? Yeah, it's, you know, it's 212 feet squared. But do you know how big an acre is? How big is your yard right now? So, oh, you know, we're on 0.24 acres. It's like, and you want 100 acres? Yeah. So you want 400 times more land than you currently have? Yeah, that's what we're thinking. Okay. You start showing them some properties. They're like, oh my God, it's huge. Yeah. This is only a 50-acre piece. It's huge. What am I going to do with all this? My point. Most people don't realize how big acreage is and how little you actually need. I mean, I've talked about it 400 times on camera. In North Texas, we had 1/3 of an acre. 1/3 of an acre. And we had raised beds and mature nut trees and berry bushes and fruit trees and backyard laying hens and backyard meat birds and rainwater catchment and row crops plowed into the ground and meat rabbits back before we kept Torah, like all in the backyard, and there was still room for the kids to kick the soccer ball or swing the wiffle ball bat. Like, It's quite a few cubits, I would say. Well, 212 feet would be what, 140.7 cubits? It's 140.7 cubits square. The only real benefit to massive acreages is distance between other people. It's also the biggest negative. So that's correct, Christopher. That's the other thing that people miss is like, ideally you have good neighbors that you can depend on and they can depend on you. And you don't want them so far away that their response time, forget SHTF, their response time if your cows get out is inadequate. Or if there's a brush fire that you don't know about or whatever. Like if shit happens, not shit hits the fan, just shit happens. Well, they're 25 minutes away. That's a pretty rough response time. What's up, Rain Cat? Glad my Buckeye's wife had a successful brain surgery today. Praise Yah. Amen. Praise Yah. Liberty Off-Road. I'd like 1/10 of a hectare. That's a quarter acre. First time my chickens put themselves away tonight. Awesome, Ken. I have a put the chickens away device right here. It's a Glock 19X BB gun, and it's very good for chicken removal from the porch. Very good. What's your opinion on the book of Enoch? Read it. Enoch is one of 2 men in the Bible who was so righteous that they were taken without dying by Yah. I would also submit Enoch, if you don't have a strong understanding of Torah and the appointed times, don't even waste your time with Enoch, because that shit is going to fly so far over your head you're not even going to know that you missed it. Enoch was a genius. Like Shaul of Tarsus, the Apostle Paul, most people say that, well, in the New Testament, Paul says you don't have to keep Torah. No, you don't even know what Torah is, so you don't understand when Paul talks about Torah. So take the brilliance, the doctorate level teachings of the Apostle Paul in the New Testament, because he was a Pharisee of Pharisees, man. He sat at the feet of Gamaliel. Like, Paul, Shaul, he knew his stuff, man. Enoch is 100 times more intricate than Paul is. And so if you're not grasping the Old Testament concepts of the New Testament teachings of Paul, don't even bother with Enoch. Like, don't even. It's like trying to read a technical manual for a Tomahawk missile. And if that's not your genre, if you don't know what you're looking at, it's going to fly right over your head. There you go. My 10-year-old son had a stent put into his gallbladder today and is doing okay for now. I'm glad to hear that. Sometimes Christians disappoint me as they are passive waiting for Jesus. Yeah, I feel that completely. That's fine. I got a news for you. A remnant is not 2 billion people. And I would submit to you based upon, again, the teachings of Shaul of Tarsus, the Apostle Paul in the New Testament, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, that most Christians aren't even going to recognize Yeshua or Yahushua or Yahusha. By the way, there's no J in Hebrew, and he spoke Aramaic, not King James English. But I know, let's never let facts get in the way of a good story. Most Christians aren't even going to recognize him when he returns. They're going to be looking for a sopping wet pussy. Instead, when they see a absolute righteous king, man of war, in the line of David, indwelt with the spirit of Elohim, they're going to be like, that's not the guy. That's not the guy they told me about at church. Yeah, because your pastor's a liar, and you bought into a fantasy. Your God's make-believe. Oh, I said the quiet part out loud. I'm sorry. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not sorry.